Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Guberman Appleby Immigration Lawyer YouTube channel. We're here today to have another discussion on news media covering recent immigration issues. I'm Laney Appleby and this is Joel Guberman. Today we will be discussing a Globe and Mail article entitled "Ottawa Urged to Issue Travel Warning as U.S. Refuses Entry to Some." Joel, why don't you just start off with giving us a little recap of the main points in the article, then we can opine on our thoughts.
The essence of the article is that it is telling us that the United States is, let's call it, cracking down, giving difficulty to Canadian citizens who were born in certain Middle Eastern countries, specifically Iran, Afghanistan, at least that's what the article mentions. Notwithstanding the fact that they're Canadian citizens, they are being not permitted to enter the United States, ostensibly because they don't have the correct documentation, but underlying that is because of their country of origin.
What I find especially interesting about this, unfortunately, we've seen this going on for many, many years. Actually, a few years ago, we had a case that was covered by CTV on this particular issue.
It's interesting, and as we mentioned in other of our YouTube airings, this isn't exactly new. What is new about it is it's hitting the front page, and there's quite a kerfuffle because of the Trump administration ostensibly cracking down on immigration. But to your point, Afghan-born individuals, Iranian-born individuals, and other countries have been stopped from entering the United States, notwithstanding that they're Canadian citizens, I'd say for decades.
We've seen a lot of very terrible cases with similar fact patterns. Off the top of my head, I can think of Iranians in particular. We've had a slew of Iranians in this situation over the years, doctors, professionals. I remember one time we had a very prominent imam.
Several imams, yes.
Yeah. The issue isn't new. I think what is new, again, and we've talked about this earlier this week, this heightened concern, and I mean, it might be becoming more than a concern to me, starting to seem a little bit factual, where there is a deeper dive into people's social media. What are your thoughts on that?
One of the things that's somewhat egregious about this is in almost every single case that we've read about or that we know about through our own firm, these people have all been admitted to the United States on numerous occasions previously. It's a new thing as far as these people are concerned. It's not new as far as we're concerned because we've seen it happen in the past. When someone's been admitted to the United States without a glitch numerous times and suddenly this becomes an issue, it's disconcerting.
It's disheartening, and I'm sure people who have entered the United States many, many times without issues over the years, and they're doing something non-contentious, going to a family wedding, going to a business meeting, this will definitely come as a surprise to them. As much as I wish we could say there's a quick and easy solution to this, there never has been, and I don't see that the solutions are going to be any easier going forward.
No, and there's a lot of misinformation even given by Customs and Border Protection officers at the border. When refused entry, sometimes there's a document that's given to the refusee, if you will, called an I-275, which states the reason, cites this section of the law. Invariably, that section says they're not in possession of the correct documentation. That's all it means, which is a catch-all for anything under the sun, and it's not true. Of course, these individuals are in possession of the correct documentation. They have a Canadian passport, they have a return ticket. It's really sort of a bogus catch-all reason, which is A, disconcerting. But if I have anything to say in terms of how to deal with this, I can't stop people from being stopped, that's for sure. But if you're in the slightest bit concerned, I would recommend flying to the United States, not driving to the United States. Why? Certain powers at the land port of entry. First of all, you're in the United States when you go to the little booth. You can be detained, you can be talked to, take hours and hours and hours, and it has in the past. Questioned and then turned around and sent back to Canada. If you fly, you're still on Canadian soil, and if you're being questioned, and you may be questioned, of course you want to catch your flight, so you usually sit around and wait for them to say, okay, you can go. If you feel uncomfortable, you can say, officer, I no longer wish to go to the United States, please give me my passport. You turn around and go home.
Taking this back to the actual headline of the article, which was Ottawa urged to issue travel warning as U.S. refuses entry to some, we spoke about this earlier in the week where I noted the DFAT website is a good resource in terms of trying to assess the risk or what you need to look out for when you're entering any country, not just the U.S. And at that point, the last update was on March March 21st, and that simply spoke to the recent change about if you're in the US for over 30 days in the registration and everything like that. I checked again this morning, and it's still a green warning. Basically isn't a warning.
The usual security precautions should be taken.
Yeah, use your brain when you travel. At what point would you suggest that maybe Ottawa does consider revamping their warning, or do they do a sort of warning, green asterisk, but be extra careful if you're born in certain countries, although you may be Canadian now? There's risks for permanent residents of Canada as well.
Not that I have any grasp on the actual numbers of people who are being refused from the Canadian side to the US side at this point. I would suggest they are pretty isolated, maybe increasing. It's certain from our colleagues, it looks as though the number of people being stopped has increased. I would still say it's an extremely low percentage of travelers going to the United States, so I wouldn't touch that green annotation of travel to the United States. There's some political and diplomacy aspects to this too. I wouldn't want to label our neighbors to the south as a high security risk in traveling. Certainly not yet. And in terms of your point about permanent residents, look, permanent residents of any country in the world, notwithstanding they live in Canada, need visas to go to the United States. Certain exemptions, of course. Visas are extremely difficult to come by, especially visitors' visas, only because the consulates in Canada are so backlogged and it takes so long to get one.
I think in the meantime, before Ottawa does change their color on their official travel advisories, all you can do really at this point, be prepared as much as possible. If you are originally from one of these countries, you need to sadly be prepared for the worst.
It seems that way, but we wish everyone traveling good luck and good travels.
Thank you for joining us today for this discussion of immigration in the news. If you have any questions on this point, you can DM us, send us an email, info@gaimlaw.com. You're also welcome to give us a call, 416-548-7100. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much.